You're listening to the Transform Your Life from the Inside Out podcast. This is another Podside chat, and in this episode, I want to share with you a story, an experience that I had many, many years ago that transformed my life. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to share the entire story with you, and then I'm going to share with you takeaways about that experience, and hopefully they will apply to pretty much all of you. And then I want to touch a bit upon what I talked about last week or the week before and follow up with that concept of many people making money their master. So keep listening.
Hi, I'm Jim Fortin, and you're about to start transforming your life from the inside out with this podcast. I'm widely considered the leader in subconscious transformation, and I've coached super achievers all around the world for over 25 years. Here, you're going to find no rah-rah motivation and no hype, because this podcast is a combination of brain science, transformational psychology, and ancient wisdom all rolled into one to take your life to levels you've never thought possible. If you're wanting a lot more in life, to feel better, to heal, to have peace of mind, to feel powerful and alive, and to bring more abundance and prosperity into your life, then this podcast is for you, because you're going to start learning how to master your mind and evolve your consciousness. And when you do that, anything you want then becomes possible for you. I'm glad you're here.
Okay, so let me share a story with you, and I'll give you the date in a minute. And it was back in, I think, 2001, January. Before I do that, let me give you a little, backstory here. Working with my brother-in-law, a shaman, Don Xavier. By the way, there's some guys I'd mentioned on YouTube who calls himself Don Xavier. That's not my brother-in-law. He has no, and I mean zero, social media presence. Even embarrassingly, he had one email address that he's had for, 25 years, and it has AOL, his name at AOL. And his phone number is the same phone number that he's had for 30 years. Anyway, I want to, and by the way, if this is your first episode, it might not be the first one for you to start with. What I tell people is always go to the beginning and start there. And people listening always confirm that that is indeed the correct process for absorbing the content, because a lot of it builds as we go. Okay, so working with Don Xavier, over the years, from week number one, he had me start burning candles. And there's 7-day, you see them in like Mexican markets and stores, are like 7-day candles, are tall and slender. And they burn, or they were supposed to burn, for about 7 days. And he works with the earth, wind, fire, and water. And that's one of the things that he works with is 7-day candles, which was fire. Okay, let's go now to New York City when I lived there in 2001, from 98 to 2001. I started working with him in 1997. And when I moved to New York, I got all engaged in this city and in my ego and really enjoying living in this city at that point. I couldn't do it anymore, but I enjoyed it, And let me just think through my story here, because this will be, for some of you, it'll be a very fascinating story. And I want to read you the notes that I made the evening of this story. So anyway, burning 7-day candles in the glass they come in, I also fireproof them. And a couple of my candles were flickering. I always put them in a triangle or a straight line, however he instructs me, in the different colors and stuff like that. So my candles were one night, my candle glass kept breaking, but I had it in a larger glass container so that I would never, it'd never be a fire hazard. And the candles kept breaking. And I remember one time telling Don Xavier about this, and what he said to me is, he goes, "You better be glad it's the candles and not you." And then he jokes a lot, and he's like, "You know what? You need to get your life, straightened out, basically get aligned with him, or," he said, "you're going to burn New York City down." So I guess that would have been Mrs. Brown's version of that in New York City. Anyway, my candles, 2 of them in the three glass cylinders had broken. And I did something you're not supposed to do. And the candle was it literally looked like it maybe had, a half a day to burn thereabouts. It was all the way to the bottom. So I went over to the candle one of them that was really broken, and I blew on it. And I kid you not, it went out, and then it came back on again. And these aren't trick candles. And I'm like, okay. And it came back on. So anyway, I'm like, the heck with it. I was tired. I went to bed. And the next morning, really early in the morning, this was back when we had phones. I didn't even have a cell phone. I mean, the phone that you have and, the old phones. And my phone rang really early in the morning. And I don't know what time it was, but I was assuming it's maybe 6 or 7 in the morning, which who would be calling me at that hour, And what I did is I rolled over, and actually I just picked up the phone with the handset with my hand and clicked it off. And about a minute later, it rang again. And I thought, that's really odd. So I picked up the phone, and there was no one there. Yet, one of my candles, the one that had broken that I tried to blow out the night before, had literally filled my room with smoke. My whole, bedroom was like a gray cloud. And I thought to myself, I'm like, holy cow. If my roommate sees this, he's going to throw a fit. I mean, he's going to have a cow because he was always afraid, even though I made them fireproof, of them being a fire hazard. And I'm like, I'm thinking to myself, I've got to put these candles out. I've got to put these candles out and get the smoke out of this room before he wakes up. And as I said, it was probably 6 in the morning, and I don't think he got up till 8 or something. I don't know. Anyway, I ran in the kitchen. Now, mind you, again, I guess I should have said this, is that the candles were 7-day glass candles. They are tubular, circular, and I put them inside a flower vase, each one inside a circular flower vase, so that if the candle broke, there would be no fire hazard because the candle broke, which was glass, inside a bigger piece of glass, which would contain anything. All right. So what happened is because, it was like a smokestack coming out of this candle. It was, just chugging smoke out. So I ran to the kitchen and I grabbed a glass of water. And when I came back, I poured the whole glass of water in the candle. Now, what happened next is that water, okay, listen to what I'm going to say. That water turned into fire. And water shot out of that candle cylinder all the way up my wall like a flamethrower. And I'm like, holy, and I was, all kind of expletives were coming out of my mouth. And I'm like, there's no way this can happen. And the thing is, because I was rushing around, I really wasn't analytically thinking. I was just reacting. And so I went in the kitchen and got another glass of water. And I poured it in the candle cylinder again. And it finally went out. But then the candle started screaming. It had this loud hissing sound to it. So I opened my window and put it on the ledge. Now, what I want you to consider here is, when do you pour water on fire and it becomes like gasoline? All right. Now, what happened is I called my sister later that morning around noon or so, and I said, hey, I need to talk to the Don. And I heard him in the background. I suppose they were in their kitchen. And I heard him say, because my sister thought she didn't know anything about this. And I thought, she thought that I was calling about dinner with another family member the night before. And I said, no, I need to talk to the Don. And I heard him in the background say, this is exactly what he said. Now, mind you, he lived in Dallas. I lived in New York City. And this is what he said. And I heard it clear as day. He said, no. He wants to know what happened to his candles. Tell him I will call him later. Okay, so that's the prelude to what I want to read you here. And if I stumble in a few places, it's because literally I wrote this back in January of 2001. And I wrote so fast, it was like chicken scratch. So anyway, let me just read you my notes verbatim, and then I will tie these notes back to you guys, because I always want this podcast to be about you guys. And I even debated today for a long time. I'm like, what do I do? Do I read this? Do I not? Are people going to be turned off? Are they going to want to hear this? Will it resonate? And more than anything, I was thinking, can I make it transformational and give people some ahas, the podcast chat, for Podside chat, for people that are listening? Okay, let me muddle through what I wrote. If you hear me flipping pages, it's just in a journal that I had. Okay, here we go. Around 10 p.m., which was that night, I got a call from Don Xavier. His usual self, laughing and smiling, he said, "What happened this morning, brother-in-law?" Of course, he knew what happened. He talked about the realm of many dimensions, and then he said, "As I have no expectations, I did not know this would happen. This has happened to no one in the circle and no one out of the circle, only you. We've been giving you messages for some time. However, you have ignored them. If you ignore this message, a stronger message will come. You will not die with the second message, though it will be very strong. This message this morning was done in a way that it could not be rationalized with your analytical mind. As you know, when you poured water on your candle, it ignited like fuel. This was done to wake you up. You have to go to Peru with me, and this is your wake-up call. This wake-up call is from beyond me. You came to this planet for a purpose, and your purpose has to do with other dimensions, other times, and other beings. This trip will be very powerful, and a trip into other dimensions. You need to go jump in the shower and take a long, hot shower to wash the crap out of your life. You need to get rid of that crap in your life. You're very fortunate that you have someone to help you understand your luminous body. I'm going to skip over another line that he said here because it's about him. So, you have much work to do. You need to allow yourself to see yourself and know yourself for the first time. You need to realize that life is not about your conveniences. Life is not about your ego and stupidities. You need to learn to have peace. This is the most important thing you can do. With that, you can have it all. You need to find the essence of who you are. I knew it the first time I saw you, and you need to know it yourself. You need to change everything in your life, and especially your anger. Realize that tomorrow is not here and yesterday is gone. All that truly exists is now. Learn to live in the present. Put your attention on your spiritual alignment and learn to know yourself. When you learn to know yourself, that will be priceless for you, and you will begin doing what you need to do with your life. And knowing yourself, that is like a flower. You need to, something I can't read my writing, that part of you that is in you. Place your attention on your in the wall who is teaching you all that you know. What power? And you ignore it. If you choose the path of spiritual alignment and power, what will be for you will be priceless. You cannot imagine what you will attract if you move into spiritual alignment. I am a shaman. I am a sorcerer. I am in the wall. Some people think that I'm a spiritual leader and master. Some people think that I'm evil. It does not matter, as I am who I am. Don't have expectations about the changes that will come or how they will happen. In Peru, I will be in my silence, and so should you. You need to find total silence in yourself. Give up your old habits and stop resisting yourself. You're spiteful to yourself, and now you have choices, and you can allow change and have it all, or you can continue to live in the hell that you've created. What are you resisting? Abundance is up to you. For you to have spiritual alignment, that equals everything to you. You've been in a trance and a daze today because I touched your double and your luminous body last night. You have a choice, and if you make the right choice, your life will never be the same. Okay, now that's obviously unfiltered. That's verbatim. And of course, I mean, I was writing as fast as I could when he was talking to me. And I shared that with you. And my intuition was my sense that even as I read that, some of you might not resonate. Some of you would like completely be engrossed in it because you're connecting energetically at a higher level. And then some of you are like, well, there's some wisdom in here. So what I want to do is I want to meet in the middle for all of you. And I want to talk about the wisdom that's in here and things that you can use and things that I want to point out that you can use to transform and to evolve your own life. So let's dig in here to a couple of things that I want to point out, things that I said. And again, what I read to you is completely my writing, verbatim, unabridged. I've grown a lot in the last 20 years working with a shaman, 24/7, so to speak. Just like you, I'm on the planet learning my lessons. I mean, I was going to say, well, I'm human, but I'm not human. I'm a cosmic being having a human experience. Because even when I use the word spiritual, many people take that and they make spirituality a religion and they make it a dogma and they make it dogmatic, which is simply just a belief system. I used to, so I understand it. And truly, when we're spiritual, which I'm going to finish this thought and go back to where I wanted to go, then come back over it. When we're spiritual, we're truly aligned with the higher essence of who we are as beings. Okay, so let's go back here first, is you'll have to learn to have peace. I think many years ago, I used to be the type A personality and always going and always doing and getting things done and productive and successful and achieving and all those kinds of things. Let me back up also to share something personal. I've worked with Don Xavier doing candle work since 96. And as I said, when I moved to New York, I became pretty much a lot of 3D, and I put aside a lot of my calling because I went to work on Madison Avenue originally, which is why I went there, and then I hated that, and I went to work at the Hypnosis Institute after that, and I loved it for 3 years. But I got a lot, and I lived a lot out of my 3D ego. I want to point out also when I moved there, off topic but on topic, some might find it interesting, doing candles. When I moved there, I literally just allowed myself to get off track spiritually. And I was doing candles as I was, for years prior to moving there. And one day I came home from work and my candles were only halfway burned out, but they were all out. They were not lit. And I called my sister and she said, yep, I talked to Don Xavier and he said, if you're not going to value and appreciate the work, you're not going to do the work. And your candles are going to stay out until you will learn to appreciate the work. And that was a wake-up call for me, no question. But also no question is at that point in my life with who I was and why I was living there and all that, no question, just transparency. I was enjoying living in New York City. This day and age, I can't even go. I had to go speak there 2 years ago. I couldn't go this day and age. I don't want to go. My ego, there are things I miss, like a good Broadway show and musicals and entertainment and everything else. And Broadway and just entertainment and the quality of entertainment. But I can't handle the energy anymore. When I was here 2 years ago, literally right off the airplane, I was like, whoa, I was like hitting in the face with a brick. But let's go here. So I've given you some backstory on me and some transparency, and I'm not that person today. So learn to have peace. So I'm talking to you directly, and I've got people thankful to you all around the world and at all levels and all socioeconomics and all everything. But humans are humans. Now the question is do you have peace? And then ask yourself, if I don't have peace, what is creating that lack of peace in my mind? And for a lot of you, something I alluded to that he said to me back then, and he's said it over and over, and I've done episodes about this, is if you don't have peace, most likely you're not present. You're not living in the now. You're living in The past, I was abused, I was raped, I was this, I was that. Jim, you don't understand my father, you don't understand my mother, you don't understand how I grew, all these kind of things. Or you're living in the future. Worry, 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 bills, worry, 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 bills, job, lost job, worry, 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 bills, 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 worry, worry. And by the way, if you're concerned about money, you're being concerned about the easiest thing to make in the world is money. Go back and listen to episode number 9 here at the podcast on literally how to use the law of attraction to attract money instead of repelling it. But what is peace? And learn to have peace. And in that same call, I do remember, is he said to me, he goes, you can't do anything without peace of mind. And I'm going to reframe that and say, or I'm going to tweak that a little bit and say, it's hard to do anything well without peace of mind. And let me give you an example, because so many of you are concerned about money, is notice when you had money and you've got money in the bank and you can pay your bills and your Visa bill's paid and your student loans paid and your mortgage is paid and you've got a little extra money in the bank. Notice how, air quote, happy you are. And notice when you're happy, how much easier it is to make decisions about things in life, about what to pay or what to do or where to go. And then notice when you're not happy, when you're worried, notice how hard it is to make decisions. Why? Because you're worried. So the whole point is when you have peace of mind, life becomes so much easier for you. And then because it's easier, you're making better choices and you're more powerful. Now, I could go literally high end, a bigger frame here, and and I know you guys will say, or some of you might say, which one of my clients said one time, he said, Jim, you don't worry about money because you have money. Now, mind you, if you've listened for any amount of time, you know that I grew up dead broke. I mean, we were poor. And, I was broke when I was in my early 30s. I was broke. I get it. I mean, scratching in the back seat of my car for change and having $7 to eat on for 4 days and eating tuna fish. I mean, I've been there. And I said, no, Mike. No. I said, the reason that I have money is because I don't worry about money, which is what so many people do. And then what they do by law of attraction, because they worry, they repel money. So the very thing that people do is it repels the very thing that they want, and it takes their peace. So just chew on that for a bit. When you have peace, it is so easy to get things done. And you've heard me say it before, so I'll give you the phrase here, and I'll say it again. And by the way, somebody sent me a cutting board, and it's actually in the kitchen. It's a nice cutting board. And engraved in the cutting board is something that I learned from Don Javier's mentor, who is a shaman and a sorcerer and on the wall. And many years ago, he said to me, and when you really get your mind and your teeth into this, everything changes. When you look at life from a macro perspective, meaning you're just passing through, you're just a cosmic traveler, and you've hopped off and you're on this planet for a bit. But he used to say to me all the time, life always has been, is now, and will always be fine. Life always has been, is now, and will always be fine. And if you really take a step back and look at your life, that is the truth. Because no matter what happened a year ago, it's done. It's over with. Whether you needed surgery or something happened to you or somebody in your family transitioned over or you wrecked your car or you lost your business or whatever human things that happened to you, now, you know what? It's okay. It's okay. There's a phrase, you probably have heard me say my mother was very Christian. And there was a phrase that she said that's in the Bible, I believe. And it's a very powerful phrase. And that phrase is, this too shall pass. And it's, we as humans, we can well, that just sounds really good, la-di-da, go live in la-la land. But the reality, that's real time, real life wisdom. So everything always has been, is now, and will always be fine. And because of that, that gives you now the freedom when you can actually absorb that place and live from that place. It gives you the freedom to live in peace. Okay, next, spiritual alignment means everything for you. And as he said to me, spiritual alignment is priceless. Now, we all have different karma. So, for example, what I'm to do is what I'm doing now. This is exactly what I'm doing. This is my dharma. I could not do anything other than what I do. It's just not possible. This is what I do. And so the alignment for me, because I know I impact a lot of people in a very positive and I think a spiritual way, that alignment many years ago was vital, for me because it brought me to where I am today. And honestly, I'm kind of excited. I'm living in the present, but I'm kind of excited, like, where am I going to be in 20 years? I mean, I'm 56. Who am I going to be impacting and how many and in what ways? In what ways will I have changed and grown in 20 years? And I'm excited for that. But for now, we're in the now. But I'm going to say the same thing for, to you. And I want to say a line here to preface it, because I don't know where you are, in your own mind about the nature of your being. But I'm going to go here for a second. Everything on the planet is spiritual. And what I mean by that is everything has an energy to it, which is not rah-rah, not la-la, not woo-woo. It's physics. Everything is in movement. Everything vibrates. Everything has frequency and everything has vibration, which means everything has a force to it. And we can call that spirituality. So whether or not, see, people when they say, well, I'm not spiritual, or they could be religious, which spirituality and religion are not the same thing, or they could be the same thing, depending upon how you marry them. But I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the essence, the cosmic essence of the divineness of who you are as a being. Now, why do people not align? Most people, and I'm not tossing any stones because I've been there. Why do people not align with that spiritual essence? Why? Because like I read to you, I was too damn busy living my 3D life, living the external life, woohoo, having a good time. And even though I worked when I lived in New York City at the Hypnosis Institute, I mean, New York is a playground. If you're at that place in your life, there's tons to do. It's a singles, there's like 40% of Manhattan's single. There's tons and tons and tons of things to do in Manhattan all the time. It's a city that never sleeps. But most of you, and I'm going to use that word most of you are literally so trapped in your 3D world because that's what you've become and learned to become over the course of your lifetime, that you're trapped in your 3D world. And now you're not aligned because for many of you, you have made money your master. Now, what do I mean by that? And I know some of you are like, nuh-uh, that famous nuh-uh, Jim, that famous phrase. And, that's not me. I'm going to cross my arms and dig in. That's not, well, yeah, many of you do. If you're afraid to leave a job, you're afraid to do what you love to do, you're afraid to start a business that you want to start or a charity or something, you're afraid to do anything for the most part in the external world in your life, for most of you, it's because money is your master. Now, what does that mean? It means you can't do what you want with your life because you're a slave to money. And that doesn't mean a slave to making money. It means a slave to what money represents. Let me give you an example that I think probably 75% of you or more will be able to relate to. I was talking to one of my students recently in the transformational coaching program. She is a doctor and she's a PhD as well, MD and a PhD. And she is becoming a leader for MDs because there's so many MDs that are stuck in being an MD. Because what happens is, as maybe a kid or in college, this human being says, I want to be a doctor. And then what happens, because I want to heal people. And by the way, most doctors are not healers, they're practitioners. They're simply prescribing medications and putting people through procedures, but they're not true healers because, the suicide rate in that industry is even high and many doctors are unhealthy. So if they're really healers, then why are they so unhealthy? Okay, now what happens, and I was talking to, her name is Inga, about this, and she's like, yep, and those are the people that I want to help because she broke out of the rut. And you see, but this applies to pretty much every profession, but this is the one at the front of mind as of last week. So what happens is a person goes to medical school, and then what they do, for most of them, they get out of medical school and they become a doctor, a practitioner in the field of medicine. And many of them start making some money, or they've got tons of student debt, but many of them start making money. And then what they start doing is acquiring the 3D ego prestige of being a doctor or a surgeon or a neurologist or a cardiologist or an optometrist or whatever it is. And they become that ego. And then what happens for many, they meet their partner or their husband or their wife, and then they get married, and then they have kids. And then guess what? The kids cost a lot of money. And then the kids go to college for the most part. And what happens is, this is what I see, is these people are now trapped in this system. And that, I'm pondering here for two reasons. One, because I'm pondering, and two, because I have the hiccups. So they're pondering or floundering. No, I'm pondering, not them. Okay. But the reason they're floundering and they're stuck in life is because now they've got all this debt in their life and they have to service the debt or the mortgage and the kids' cars and the college education and paying off the student loans. And guess what? Now I see this over and over and over in many professions. People, they're not aligned with what makes them happy because they're too busy being on the hamster wheel that they've created over the past 10, 20, 30, or 40 years. Now the hamster wheel puts people into a system. And in the system, people have to make money to sustain their level of living, which they have now become accustomed to. And because of that, guess what? This doctor that hates practicing medicine because of what the industry's become, it's a business. So, for the most part. So what happens is people, they become a slave to their master, and their master is the money that sustains their lives. So for you, if you've said, you know what, I really want to be an artist, but I can't, because I hear this all the time. How am I going to make any money if I'm an artist? When one of my students, just 3 years ago, she was a high school art teacher. She's already retired, and her art is extraordinary. Number one, she hadn't stepped into what her art calling was, what I call her artistry, which was actually creating a translation or creating paintings of, and she uses pencil a lot, but creating paintings of a person's animal totem. And like mine, she created what I would consider to be one of the most mind-boggling, earth-shattering pieces of art that I've ever seen. And that was for me about 2.5, 3 years ago. And now she's putting out her art. I think she said last week she has a 7-month waiting list. And I think she charges anywhere between $5,000 and $10,000 per piece of art. So don't even think about telling me you can't make money as an artist. But look at anything and everything. If you're saying, I can't do what I love to do in life, I can't go here, I can't go all these places, or I can't change jobs. And so many people are in jobs, work environments that are destroying them, and they're toxic, and they're destroying their life. Why? Because they've become a slave to the money that sustains their standard of living. And even if it's a low standard of living, people become a slave to that. They go to low-end jobs they hate. I mean, people work minimum wage jobs they hate. Why? Because they're putting food on the table. So what happens is when people go on that path, you know what? And do not be arrogant and think, oh, that doesn't apply to me. because I know you guys. I know you listening because I've done this a lot of years, and I've touched literally millions of people in my life with things that I do from the stage and social media and everything else. I know you. And here's the thing is don't be arrogant. Do not be arrogant and say, well, that's not me, because where in your life have you become a slave to money, and that you need the money to have the outcomes that you want in life? Now, what if you aligned? Because see, number one, you're never going to make the kind of money, I'm going to say never, or you're not going to have the quality of life that you want when you do things for the money, which is what I've been there as well, guys, which is what a lot of people do. They do things for the money because they think they have to. And I'm going to tell you this, you will never work as hard for your money unless you're working for money. Why do you think people who work on the side of the highway, I live in Arizona now, I mean, it's 120 degrees outside. Why do you think people work on the side of the highway doing road work when it's 120 degrees? Why? For $55,000, $60,000 a year to lay hot asphalt in the sun because they love doing it? I mean, who loves doing that? They do it for the sustenance and the paycheck. Now, you're never going to achieve, you're never going to attract the kind of money that you could attract if you're aligned. Here's the key, doing what you love. Because I don't know if you can tell or not, but I love what I do. And that's why I said several minutes ago, I couldn't do anything other than what I do. I've worked for my money, and I've waited tables, and I've been a valet many, many years ago. And I've done a lot of things. I mean, I baled hay and growing up on a farm, and I've done a lot of things that are physical, intensive, hard work for money. And the thing is this, you get paid the least amount of money when you work hard for your money on the side of the road or baling hay or some kind of menial, laborious job. But when you align with that calling, and every one of you, you know what it is. When you align with that calling, Michelle, I don't know if you're going to listen or not, but there's a lot of you that I'm going to call out Michelle. She's one of my students I talked to yesterday, but a lot of you are Michelle. And she's a CPA, and she's a partner in a firm. It's not her calling. It's not her passion at all. She's not even aligned with it anymore. She doesn't even like what she does anymore. And she knows she has a higher calling and a bigger calling. But as long as we choose to make money the master, then we're stuck doing the accounting, or laying the asphalt, or washing the dishes, or cleaning homes, or being a lawyer if we hate it, or being a doctor if we hate it. And we live our entire lifetime unfulfilled. So the most valuable thing you can do for yourself, what brings you alive? Look at that. What brings you alive? And you might think, well, Jim, I can never make money at what I do. Many years ago, I was a hired gun speaker, and I represented an organization out of New York City called the Learning Annex. They're the largest provider of adult education in the U.S. And I don't mean adult like, that kind of adult. I mean, they still do all kind of courses, everything from how to buy money, no money down, to how to learn to play blackjack, to all kind of courses. And I remember in the course catalog, and I mentioned this in the podcast before, there was this lady who taught, I think she called it exotic pole dancing, like you'd see in a strip club. And I thought to myself, who would register for this course? And I put it out of mind. I didn't register for it. It didn't appeal to me and apply to me. I guess it could apply to me. I don't know. It's just not my thing. And I can't dance anyway. And that's a belief, but I'm one of those people that dances like a box. But anyway, but about a month later, I heard Oprah was on. And I heard all these women screaming on Oprah. And I'm like, what is that commotion going on? And I don't even know why my TV was on during the day. But it is, so I can relay the story to you many years later. And I walked in, and guess what? That lady in the catalog that I saw that, she taught a course at the Learning Annex, where I was the kind of what you would call the national spokesperson for one of their programs. She teaches women how to dance, exotically and sexy and everything, and sensuously and sensually, whatever the exact tense is or word, for their partners. And the audience was going bananas watching this. Now that woman could have said, well, I'm just a dancer. How can I make any money out of that? And this woman, she went on to create, she was on Oprah, for crying out loud. And that's what literally lit her up, was dancing and showing people how to do that. So, you can call spiritual alignment whatever you want to call it. Obviously for you, it's not to work with a shaman or something like I do, but I'm on my path. And as a result of that, I come to you in this episode. And there's always been a part of me in every single episode that I bring. And for all of you, we have over 1,000, 5 stars on iTunes. And by the way, if you're listening on iTunes, please, I'm asking you for a favor for me, and just call it reciprocity, payback. I give you value in the podcast. Please go leave me a 5-star review, and do it now, because otherwise you'll probably forget. Leave me a 5-star review and share this podcast. Not asking you for money on it. There's no commercials, but we help people, and I help you, and you can help people when you share it. But back to what I was saying, or I think what I was saying, if I remember correctly, I'm aligned. And you know what? I have a really amazing life. I really do. I don't work for a living, and I have multiple 7 figures per year in income coming to me, and I don't work. I do what I love, and I really don't even do that much activity in terms of work. I have a team and employees and everything else. Once I'm done with this episode, it goes right to my tech manager, the guy who manages tech for my company, and they handle it from there, and I don't see it again. But here's the thing. Even when I'm doing things like this podcast, or I'm leading live coaching calls or something, there's no work, because I'm passionate about what I do. I'm living my dharma because I'm aligned. Okay, I'm going to stop babbling. But your takeaways for this particular call is alignment for you, and let's not even call it spirit, but alignment for what moves your soul, what sets you on fire. That will be priceless for you. That's takeaway number 1. The second is that money is a tool. That is it. It is a medium of exchange. Do not allow money to be your master. And if you have allowed money to be your master, it's going to take courage to stop that. And the way to stop the money being your master is to align with what sets you on fire. Now, I can't go into it here, and I'm not responsible for what you do in life. You must be smart this day and age. Like, let's say, for example, you want to go start your own business. And I said, hey, what do you do for a living? I'm going to hear the whole gamut. I'm going to hear thousands of people say I'm a real estate agent. I'm a home inspector. I'm a surgeon. I am a psychiatrist. I am this. I am that. I am No, wrong. Every single one of your professions relies on revenue coming in to be able to sustain yourself in the profession. Even if it's a doctor, hospitals and doctors and offices rely on money and patients to keep the everything operational. First and foremost, you're a marketing professional. Because like Jay Abraham, the marketing legend, says, if you can't market what you do better than you can do what you do, you won't be doing what you do very long. So follow that passion. You know what? Whatever it is for you, but also first and foremost, learn how to market that passion. And for those of you saying, well, Jim, how do I do that? I worked in like international level marketing for 10 years online with people that I know that are household names in the industry of international marketing. Now, I know marketing like the back of my hand because I've been studying it since 1992. But this day and age, YouTube. There are, billions of videos on YouTube. Just start watching every video that you can watch on internet marketing. How to market yourself, etc. But that is where the sweet spot in life is because when you can do that, I promise you, everything that you want will come to you. Okay, so I need to segue here for a minute from the episode. This actually is something that's inserted after the podcast is already created. It's an afterthought, but my team told me yesterday, Jim, add this to your podcast. And even though I say, later in this podcast that I don't promote anything or, there's no ads or any of that, well, I'm going to promote something right now. So I'm going to contradict myself, but for good reason. Many of you, I don't know, probably 50 to 70% of you are online business owners or entrepreneurs. One of my best friends is literally an industry leader in online marketing and business building. He also works with my brother-in-law, Don Xavier, and he started that about 2 years ago. And very quickly, Don Xavier brought James Wedmore into his inner circle. So I'm talking about my friend James Wedmore. And what he's doing, he's hosting a masterclass on May the 27th and 28th, and it's titled Nail Your Niche Masterclass. And what he's going to do is help you define your niche in a matter of hours. Now, in this episode, or, one of the recent episodes, I talked about that you're first and foremost a marketing professional. And this day and age, the riches are in the niches. And as a matter of fact, the mega riches are in these sub niches, meaning you've got to find a niche and you have to speak to that niche. And James is going to show you how to do that. So if you own a business and you want to learn how to nail your niche, which he's only teaching this one time this year, then what you want to do, and he's teaching it on May the 27th and 28th, what you want to do is click the link and go to jimfortin.com, nail your niche. So that's actually, instead of clicking the link, you have to go there, but jimfortin.com/nail your niche. NAILYOURNICHE, and get registered. Okay, so again, for any of you that are entrepreneurs, this is definitely worth an investment of time to be on these calls. And also, let me go here for a second, is that I live my Dharma. I exercise my Dharma. I know who my target market is, and I don't look at it that way, but it is business. I mean, I know who I'm speaking to, and I really even actually, if you've listened for any amount of time, I even whittled that down about, 2 weeks ago or so, when I said that I'm the one, and I know that I attract the weirdos. And I don't mean in any kind of derogatory way, is that most people that I attract are highly, for lack of better words, spiritual. And I know that I attract people that have always felt a little different, a little out of place on this planet. So I know my niche. And in that program, James is going to help you actually discover yours. And it's vital, because if you don't know your niche, then basically this day and age, there's so much noise online, you're going to completely miss the boat. So whatever you do, go to jimfortin.com/nail your niche and get registered for that training. Okay, so give this episode a share. I appreciate that very much for you doing that. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for listening. And I'm going to keep on going, I don't know for how long, with this kind of series, and I will catch you on another episode. All right, do what you can to make it a great day today, and take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to this entire podcast. If you're the kind of person who likes to help others, then share this with your friends and family. If you found value, they will too. So please share via your social media channels. Also, if you have questions, I'm here to assist. You can email me questions to support@jimfortin.com, and I may even use your question for a future podcast episode. Also, if you want transformational content like this daily, connect with me on Instagram. My Instagram name is I am Jim Fortin. Finally, I do have a personal request. I believe that we're all here to help others and to grow and evolve ourselves. Together, you and I, let's help more people. If you would please leave a review on iTunes, and a good one, by the way. I'd be grateful, and through your assistance together, we can transform more lives. Thanks for listening.